Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Dr. William Schnoebelen coming to you from With One Accord Ministries. And we're here today with a very serious prayer alert, but also a warning about some of the things that are going on right now concerning the election. We are doing this video just a couple of days before the November 16th presidential election. And but some of this stuff will be just generally important for any time, anywhere, anyhow. All right, I want people to understand that in our experience of over 30 years in the ministry, prayer is a very powerful, powerful weapon against the forces of darkness. So I don't want anything about what I'm about to share to dismay you or to demoralize you, because if you really pray, if you come against these things in the strong name of Yahushua the Messiah and by the power of his set-apart spirit, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that you need to be afraid of. But we need to really be crying out for this country. I'm going to explain why in a moment. As almost everybody knows, we're in the midst of probably the most controversial, heated election, certainly within my life and possibly even within the history of our country, between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And in many ways, this is a battle between the forces of good and evil. Not that Donald Trump is absolutely good. He's not. He's a very flawed human being. But I and many, many other people within the body believe that even though he's flawed, ostensibly he has made a saving profession of faith in Messiah, and we need to take him at that. Obviously, he has a lot of things in his past that are reprehensible, but oh well, look at me. And Abba Father has been able to use me through his power and his compassion over the last 30 years to mightily help many thousands of people get out of the occult. So let's not worry about his past right now. Let's worry about what's going on right now. I believe the contrast here is profound. Many years ago, back in the 90s, I was telling people, both speaking and also in communications, that Hillary Clinton is a profoundly wicked witch. She is a high-level illuminist who in no way, shape, or form is any kind of friend to Bible-believing people. She is pro-abortion. She is, and of course she's very much in the fringe wing of feminism and all these other things. So that being said, we see all of the graft, all of the crookedness, all of the corruption in her prior and also current activities, which I'm not really going to get into because that's not the purpose of this teaching. What is the purpose of this teaching is to address something that has emerged just in the last few days. Because of these various leaks from WikiLeaks and other sources that have been literally coming out every day practically about things in the Hillary campaign, and especially with John Podesta, we have seen these things about Mr. Podesta and his brother having been invited to and probably participating in a very strange, what appears to my mind, and of course I was in the occult and Satanism for 16 years, to be an occult satanic ritual. This is called, that is referred to by the woman that is doing this stuff as spirit cooking. And it's basically rooted in a combination of spiritism and also with the magical system of Aleister Crowley, which was started back in 1904. And he was, of course, a Satan worshiper, one of probably the most prominent black magicians of the 20th century. And we're going to talk a little more about that in a moment. But let me explain something here. Most people, if they have a brain in their head at all and they're on the internet, they understand that email is not secure. I remember back when I first got involved with the internet in the mid-90s, it was just out there. They said basically don't put anything in an email that you would not want posted on the bulletin board down at your local community center. It's that unsecure. And yet here we have this guy, Podesta, who is the highest guy in the Clinton campaign next to Hillary herself, sending and receiving emails about going to this spirit dinner, which is done by this woman whose name is Marina Abramovich. I hope I'm saying that right. And she is a performance artist, which means basically she does very, very weird, perverse things in the form of like a play or a mini play, and then says, "Oh, this is art." And it can be all manner of bizarre things, totally bizarre things. And this woman is right up there in terms of the creme de la creme of bizarre stuff. And here's what she has said. She herself is quoted as saying that if I do one of these events in a public forum, like an art gallery, then it's supposed to be art. But if I do it in a private setting, like a person's apartment or townhouse or whatever, in like a private party, then it is magic. It is real, powerful magic. Okay. Now these invitations that this Podesta was involved in, and again, we don't know for sure if he went to it, but there are plenty of reasons to believe that he did. Basically, they were involved, him going to a party, a private party, not a public art gallery type of venue. So anyway, what this stuff consists of, from the public things that are out there about it, is it consists of gathering together things like large mixtures of blood, menstrual blood, semen, mother's milk, and mixing them together and either bathing in it or writing on walls magical incantations, weird poetry, drenching. I mean, there's videos of this woman drenching a small statue of a child with blood. There's another photo of there being what appears to be hopefully a facsimile of a nude woman floating in blood, and people are cutting things on her belly and doing stuff like that. There is mock cannibalism involved. There is just all manner of creepy things going on here, and she talks about gashing your finger. She talks about you need to cut open your finger and then eat your pain. I mean, this is not just profoundly sick, it's profoundly evil. And let me tell you why. This is not just performance art. This is not just a bunch of rich people being kinky, although there's probably an element of that in it. What this is an attempt to create a magical force to influence what's going on in our country, to influence the elections. Now, I've been warning for the entire year all the different feast days that have come and gone in the satanic calendar, Hallows Eve and back throughout the year. I'm not going to go over that except to remind my listeners that I always exhort people to pray against this stuff, because these are very, very powerful forces. And, they are going to run over your neighborhood, your community, and your country if you don't stand against it. And as I have said many times, the darkness over America is increasing. And that's partly because the church itself has been asleep at the switch. It's partly because not enough people are interceding, not enough people are praying, not enough people are living lives of set apart, following the scriptures. They're basically doing the world light. I don't mean L-I-G-H-T, I mean L-I-T-E. There's very little difference anymore between most churches and the world. Excuse me. So, with that in mind, when you have evil pouring into our country, whether it's from immigrants, whether they be Latino immigrants who are mostly not evil, but they are Catholic, and of course Catholics are a wicked system, even though most of the people in the Catholic Church are fine, upstanding people. But they don't know that wherever they go, whatever they do, these precious Catholic people are bringing profound levels of darkness into their environment, into the neighborhood, the country that they belong to. Okay. The other element, of course, are these Syrian refugees and people that are coming from other cultures, whether they be, Buddhists or Hindus or Sikhs or Muslims or whatever they might be. All of these people worship false Elohim, and they all bring with them the fallen celestial beings that go with that. So that no more can we really say that America is predominantly a Christian nation, because we now have tens of millions of these immigrants that bring with them alien religions, and I don't mean alien in the sense of space aliens, but foreign to the Judeo-Christian experience. They are bringing them into our country. They're filling our neighborhoods and our cities, and because of that, darkness is increasing. And again, this isn't about the people. These immigrants, I hope for the most part, are good people, but unbeknownst to them, they bring in this profound level of darkness. Now, on top of that, you have people at the highest echelons of power, like Hillary Clinton, like Bill Clinton, like other people that I have spoken about in the past that I'm not going to focus on today, that are involved with black magic, that are involved with Illuminism, Lucifer worship, because that's what the Illuminati are. For people that don't understand, briefly, in 25 words or less, the Illuminati are people that believe that they have received the superb light of Lucifer, that he has filled their being and made them into a Superman kind of figure, what Nietzsche called an Übermensch, a superman, not in the sense of the comic book character, but in the sense of a super being that can rule over the rest of the world just like we rule over, cows and pigs and so on. So that's how they feel. That's why these people think nothing. These Illuminati people, like, unfortunately, Hillary, think nothing of allowing people to die in places like Benghazi and so on and so on. And having whole countries, go into rack and ruin, like Libya, Somalia, Syria, all these places. And this is because these people do not serve the true Yahweh. They serve Satan, who the scriptures tell us comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And some of these people at the highest level know it. And, people say, oh, you shouldn't judge people's hearts. Well, no, but you can judge their actions. And I knew back when I first heard of Hillary in the late 1980s that this was a woman who had been into the Illuminati and who was wholly given over to the service of the dark side. Okay, now, here's what I want to get into, that with this spirit cooking. What's important to understand is that this Marina Abramovich, whatever, lady, is a worshiper of the Crowleyan system of the occult, which is called Thelema, and that means will. And of course, his cardinal rule is do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. And what happened was, back in 1904, over a century ago, Crowley was in Egypt on his honeymoon with his first wife, Rose Kelly, and she basically kind of started acting weird. Surprise there, you're married to Aleister Crowley. But anyway, and she started kind of going in and out of trance, and supposedly what happened, the story is that they were in the Cairo Museum, and she kind of went into sort of a daze and walked down the aisle of a part of some Egyptian exhibit, and she pointed very pointedly with her finger at this one artifact, which is called a stele, which is like a large stone plaque with hieroglyphics and stuff on it. And like her husband Crowley had to go and look at it, so he went and looked at it, and he looked at the number. You know how a lot of museums will have numbers on their exhibits? Well, the number of this stele was 666. Now, you got to understand, Crowley had already identified with the great beast. He had already changed his name from Edward Alexander Crowley to Aleister Crowley because it added up to 666 in the English Kabbalah, the Greek Kabbalah, and the Hebrew Kabbalah. So he was thoroughly invested in this beast thing. He thought he was going to be the great beast, To Megatherion in Greek. That was one of his magical titles. So this guy saw this thing, and it was like one of those moments where he felt, the hand of Lucifer on him. So he went home, and his wife went into trance. She said that she had this stuff to communicate from some crater human beings, some fallen, I would say fallen celestial being called Aiwass. And Aiwass dictated over the next 3 days, this is in April 1904, this book of the law, Liber Alva Legis in Latin, which is its official title. And it's like the scriptures, a 3-chapter book, pretty short. I mean, it's not even probably as long as Matthew's Gospel, which is the Bible of this religion, this Thelema religion. Okay, now here's what you need to understand. The book's 3 chapters, the first chapter is dedicated to Osiris, the second, Isis, Osiris, and then the 3rd chapter is dedicated to the war god, the hawk-headed god Horus. And in this is the most hateful of the 3 chapters. It's all very perverse. It's all profoundly anti-Christian. But in this chapter, we see some of the things that this Marina woman was trying to do, was trying to achieve. And then we'll get into why. So, I'm going to have to, please pray. And I would also say if there are young children here, you might want to have them leave the room. There's nothing here that's obscene, but this is satanic scripture I'm about to read. Listen to what is said here. This is supposedly Horus, this hawk-headed god of vengeance, speaking. And he's talking about the sacrament of Thelema. And he says, for perfume, mix meal, this is verse 23, of the 3rd chapter of this evil book. For perfume, mix meal and honey and thick leavings of red wine. Then oil of abramelin, that's a special magical recipe which is immaterial. And then olive oil. And afterwards, soften and smooth down with rich, fresh blood. The best blood, next verse, is of the moon monthly. In other words, a woman's menstrual flow. Then the fresh blood of a child, or dropping from the hosts of heaven, then of enemies, then of the priest or the worshipers, last of all of some beast, no matter what. So you need blood for this ritual. The best source is menstrual blood, then the fresh blood from a child. Then he says, verse 25, this burn as incense, and then make cakes and eat unto me. This also hath another use. Let it be laid before me, and kept thick with perfumes of your orisum, which means your prayers. It shall become full of beetles, as it were, and creeping things sacred unto you. See, in the Egyptian religion, the scarab beetle is sacred. These slay, naming your enemies, and they shall fall before you. So this is a magical ritual that you can do in this Thelemic system to cause destruction upon your enemies. Now, the other thing I want to point out to you that's really interesting is later on in this same chapter, in verse 46, there are prophecies that this Horus, who's also known as Re-Hur-Kuit, is giving forth about the future of the century. Because again, this is right after the turn of the 20th century. And he says, I am, again, the warlord. I am the warrior lord of the 40s, and the 80s shall cower before me. Now, I might be stretching this a little, but I would just call your attention to the fact, in the light of that verse, that both Bill and Hillary Clinton were born in the middle of the 40s. So they are of the 40s. And then it says, the 80s shall cower before me. And it was in the 80s that Bill Clinton rose up to the point that he could, I think it was 83, that he could become the governor of Arkansas. So they may very well think that they, meaning the Clinton family, Hillary and Bill, are the fulfillment of this prophecy. Now, this is speculation, I want to make it very clear, but it does fit in with what they are doing. Because, Crowley's system is full of perversity, of sexual magic. He basically introduced the idea of pedophilia, of having sex with children. And of course, we understand now more and more we're having, revelations that Bill Clinton is at best a sex addict, and probably even worse than that he's having, relations with underage girls on this island. And I'm not going to go into all of that because it's just disgusting. But the fact of the matter is, he is a very twisted, evil man, and apparently Hillary is right there with him, enabling him, and maybe even doing some of the same things. Now, here's the thing. They are doing, I believe, these rituals, or at least their underlings, this Podesta and his brother, and probably other people, to send malignant energy against the Trump campaign, to send chaos. See, Horus is a Elohim of chaos. And the idea there is that essentially he brings chaos into an environment so that the dark gods can reign supreme. And, lords of chaos, etc., etc. And so what they're trying to do, they are trying to send forth this energy to throw down what the Trump campaign is trying to do, what the Republicans are trying to do. And again, I realize that Trump is not perfect, but he is such a profoundly better alternative to Hillary. It's like comparing basically the serpent in the Garden of Eden to, a normal person like Samson who was a flawed human being, but Abba Father used him to reap great victories for Israel. And we know Trump is pro-Israel, we know he is pro-life. And here's the thing. If Hillary is elected, which is what all this dark energy is being sent toward, it's going to profoundly change the civilization of America and the West. Number one, because she's going to appoint judges that are going to be more abortion-oriented, that are going to pull down the Second Amendment, and pull down the First Amendment, and bring in all of this political correctness and make it legal, to the point that if you say a word against whatever that they don't approve of, you're going to be thrown in jail. Like this is already happening in Scotland and in Sweden and in Germany because of this huge influx of migrants. So beside that, the fact is she wants to bring in tens of thousands of these immigrants and darken America spiritually to a larger degree, but also to totally tip the scale of election results, because they're believing that almost all of these people that come in when they become citizens, and she's going to go, poof, you're citizens. She's going to give them all amnesty. She said that. And as a result, most of these people are probably going to vote Democrat, which means, let me tell you, the Republicans will never win another election. And that is a very scary thought. Now, I said all that to say this. I really, more than ever, I want to tell people that your prayers are powerful. I want to tell you, this is a warning that you need to gird up your loins, put on your armor, take up the sword of the Spirit, take up the battle axe of Yahweh, the glittering spear of Yahweh, and the rest of the armor, and just go forth, especially over the next couple days. If you're able to, fast. If not, at least pray for a couple of things. Remember this, Horus is a Elohim of chaos and vengeance. Something's going to happen after the election. If Trump wins, you can bet they're going to try and foment unrest, Black Lives Matter, all this kind of stuff. You need to pray mightily against that. And of course, if Hillary wins, there's going to be a tendency on the part of far right-wing people to take to the streets. And that could not go very well either. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a protest against probably what is going to be a fraudulent election. But, beside that, we need to pray against this, that there would be shalom, that there would be peace, and that justice would prevail in this country and in our election process, flawed as it might be. I want you to understand something. People say, oh, well, this Podesta, he might have even gone to this meeting. Let me tell you something. There was an interview done with him where he was sitting in his office, and behind him was an original work of art. This is like the biggest guy in the Clinton campaign. He's a high-power lawyer and everything. He's been around the Clintons forever. And on his wall behind, he had a picture, this weird picture of these 2 or 3 men standing over a third guy who's laying on a table, unconscious or something, and they're all dressed in suits, even the guy on the table. And then it looks like they're getting ready to eat this guy. They have silverware. I mean, that's just bizarre. For a guy who's an important figure in politics, to have that kind of and hopefully I'll have a halfway decent picture of it for you to look at to see what this looks like. This is just creepy. And these are the people that are behind Hillary Clinton. And we need to pray against this. And I want to exhort you. I normally don't get into politics, But this is more than politics. This is spiritual warfare on a global scale. These people are trying to bring down the church. They're trying to bring down America. They're trying to overrun America with false religions and political correctness and all the rest, and make it almost impossible for people to speak out, people like me, against sin, against things like abortion or whatever. And we need to pray and hit the ground like never before and really intercede for our nation for the election results. And I would just tell you, as I bring this to a close, I know many, many examples from both before I was saved and afterward where mighty prevailing prayer, like in 2001 after 9/11, mighty prevailing prayer on the part of enough believers kept America from falling. Because that was the Illuminati plan, that the war with Saddam Hussein would end up bringing down America because of biological warfare that he would unleash against our tottering healthcare system, which even back then was pretty frail, and it's even worse now thanks to Obamacare. And, I know, like, I was saved because one woman prayed for me. One woman. And I know many other examples since I was born again and got into prayer and intercession where praying changed the world. And you can change the world because Yahweh is powerful. He is on our side. But we have to invoke His name. We have to raise up His banner and His scriptures and just proclaim the name of Yahweh and pray in the name of Yahweh against these dark, thalamic, and other satanic forces that are out there in the world. We absolutely must. And never more has it been necessary than right now. I would say this is probably the most critical couple of days in the history of America. And we really need to pray and pray with all our might, brethren, because there's no way out after this. There really isn't, except when Yahushua comes, of course. And maybe He will. I pray that He comes tonight. Hallelujah. But until that blessed day occurs, we need to occupy. He said, occupy till I come. And we need to take back the ground. We need to take back the church, take back the culture, and take back America through prayer, through teaching, through preaching, through getting the word out any way we can. And if we don't, believe me, the devil will move in, as he has already done, to fill in the gap with people like Hillary and all these other bizarre individuals, Satanic Temple and all the rest that are just rushing in to fill the void that the church has left by falling asleep. Wake up, church. Wake up, sound the alarm, get out and pray and vote as if your lives depended upon it, because they do. Spiritually they do for sure, and maybe even physically they do. So, anyway, I really thank you for listening to this, and I want you to know that we are praying for America, and we ask that you would do the same. Please, if you find this sort of teaching helpful, please share and subscribe, and please pray about supporting our ministry as well. We're entirely a faith ministry. If you don't know how to pray effectively, on our website at withoneaccord.org, we have many warfare prayers for this kind of thing that are kind of like pattern prayers that you can kind of use as trainer wheels until you're up and running as a full-fledged special operations soldier in the army of Yahweh. So go out there and please pray for America, pray for this election like never before. Thank you, and shalom, brothers and sisters. Be blessed.